Yo, welcome to Hard Pass. I am your host, Jacques Slade. It's the show that is hoping and praying that everybody is staying safe out there after the wreckage of Hurricane Ida has wrought upon here in the US and in the Caribbean. Of course, this also means that people are just out there not giving a hoot like this champ in New York. Yeah, LA could never, and I love LA. Let's start with some hot takes. Adidas may have sold off Reebok, but that doesn't mean we're not getting some collabs between the two iconic brands on the way out. A year ago, we got James Harden and Allen Iverson releasing co-branded signature shoes. Now it's Damian Lillard and Shaquille O'Neal's turn on the Shaqnosis. Man, Dame and Shaq, two dudes who I would have loved to have seen on the court and on the mic going at it. It's a follow-up to an Adidas Dame 7 release last season with Shaq's imprint on it. It's a shame we're not going to get more of these, so a mild hard pass to Adidas not doing more of these throughout the years. Imagine if they let Kanye work on classics like the Kamikaze or the Shaq Attack like in the old days. Imagine if Adidas had just let Kanye run Reebok. He'd be so busy, Donda would have dropped without all the hysterics, but, more on that later. Underwear worn by Michael Jordan with signs of definite use is going up for auction with the starting price of $500. Yeah. It's going to be NFTs for me from now on, dog. Great news, the Nike Dunk High is coming soon to Nike by You. Bad news, it'll be sold out by the time you watch this if it dropped this weekend. Pokemon Unite fans got a treat the other day when it was announced that Blastoise was coming to the game. But the internet got the real treat when they saw that Blastoise was dressed up as a king of comedy. Seriously, thank you to the team who thought to outfit Blastoise like your uncle who takes off his glasses when they play dominoes because he thinks his nephews are looking at the reflection and cheating. I know that sounds oddly specific. Shout out to Adam Sandler just casually hooping it up with all of these stars like Trae Young and superstars like Boban. The Uncut Gems is probably still richer than the combined contracts of everybody in that gym, and he's out there in baggy shorts like it's 2004 and draining lefties like he's Michael Redd in 2004. There's a Ben Simmons joke out there, but I'm not going to make it since my 17-time world champion Los Angeles Lakers can probably still get him in the trade. Tell Horton Tucker straight up is a good deal, right? All right. Before we move on to the next segment, I just want to announce that I have accepted a new role at Bishop Sycamore. Yeah, after I heard about their amazing performance against IMG Academy, I thought to myself, I should get a job there. And I did. Shot them a DM and boom, I'm now in charge of their golf program. So first rule is everybody has to wear Jordan golf retros. And the second rule is don't be Bryson DeChambeau. Sorry. Let's play a little game here. So on the right, we've got a Nike Air Force One in white and black. On the left, we've got the GF01, a sneaker designed by John Geiger. Yes, designed is in air quotes because even though the shape is slightly different, the material quality is allegedly better and the swoosh is replaced by Geiger's own overlay. Calling this a Geiger creation is a little excessive. That would be like me going to Carl's Jr., buying a double Western burger, taking out the barbecue sauce, the bacon, and the onion rings, and adding my family's recipe for barbecue sauce, cooking my own bacon and onion rings, and putting it on the burger and selling it on Etsy as the Double Cousteau burger. Oh, and there would be a gif of me eating it that would be sold as an NFT on OpenSea, of course. Even though Geiger is very open about his influences, the naming is a little facetious is all I'm saying. Now, do I have a problem with Geiger selling them like he did earlier this week with the release of the GF01 linen colorway, which he proudly admits is a take on the iconic Air Force One release? Not really, but more on that later. So, Nike has been in courts of the legal kind lately, facing off against the more notorious names in the custom sneaker game. They're trying to shut down those who are doing a lot more than hand-painting a Dragon Ball character on a pair of Hyperdunks. By the way, quick tangent, maybe my favorite subgenre of custom sneakers was from a few years back when players like De'Aaron Fox were getting their Nikes customized with Dragon Ball characters. Even Luka got PGs made with Gohan on them, automatically making them the second best PGs ever behind the PG2 PlayStation. Anyway, late last year, Nike sued Warren Lotus over his lifting of their Nike SB Dunk trademark dress for his own use. It was the most high profile of Nike's crackdowns, as they have also sued nearly 600 websites and IG accounts for allegedly selling counterfeit sneakers. Nike has always been protective of their intellectual property, but this felt different from other instances because of the sheer number of entities they were going after. And they were also going after someone like Lotus, a known figure in the streetwear culture. In his defense, Lotus argued that he was different from your typical bootleg sneaker seller because he was creating the shoes himself and altering the look of the faux dunks. For reference, here's the slides Nike used to make their case. On the left, we've got the originals by Nike, and on the right are Lotus's creations. Lotus claims they were different enough to prevent Nike from taking legal action. After claiming he would fight the case, Lotus would eventually settle with Nike, shutting down all the sales and taking down the replacement silhouette, the Reaper. Now, take a look at the Reaper. In different times, there's a very good chance Nike would have just let that slide. But then again, it was also different enough that a hypebeast could no longer pass them off as a dunk. Who would buy that other than Lotus's most dedicated fans? My guess is the majority of people who wanted to buy those knockoff dunks were people who wanted the real dunks, and they saw Lotus bootlegs as a viable alternative that could fool someone not paying close enough attention. And if the Reapers don't look like pigeons or Heinekens, what's the point? But that was just the beginning of the swooshes beef, because they would then target La La Land Production and Design Inc., the company who supplied the shoes that Lotus would use. And guess who else sourced La La Land for their own project? John Geiger. Now, if the name sounds familiar, that's because you've been reading sneaker blogs for the past decade. Wow, that's longer than I ever did. Not that we here at Hard Pass are still petty or bitter about our blogging days. Not at all. Anyway, Geiger was former NFL superstar cornerback Darrelle Revis' manager. He had a role in the design of the Nike Zoom Revis 1, one of the best and really most underrated silhouettes of the 2010s. By the way, shout out to the actual credited designer of the Revis 1, Ken Link. He was lead designer on the Nike Zoom Kobe 1 and two silhouettes that Hoopers are begging for a retro of, the Zoom Kobe 2 and the LeBron 2. I think those would sell better than you think, Nike. I'm just saying. But anyway, back to Geiger. When he split from Revis, Geiger would strike out on his own, creating customs like the misplaced checks in limited quantities with Shoe Surgeon, and designing and selling his own sneakers, the latest being the GF01s. That's not to say all of his sneakers are blatant copies of other popular shoes, but the GF01s are just too on the nose. According to Nike, these double Cousteau burgers create confusion in the marketplace in that if an unwitting customer were to see a pair of Geiger's GF01s, they would assume that Nike made them. This was the same reasoning they used for the Lil Nas X custom Air Max 97s, which had satanic imagery. Now, I personally feel most sneakerheads, the audience that would actually buy Geiger shoes, know the difference between what Geiger made and what Nike makes millions of pairs of. But I can also see why Nike would be hyper protective of their trademarks. I think they know that sneakerheads can tell the difference. But just like the Lotus case, this ain't about those that live the sneaker life, but those who dabble in it and can't tell the difference. In a way, Nike opened this forbidden door when they started to open up the palette. Reverse swooshes were a rare occurrence during Nike's first 40-something years. Shout out to the LeBron 10. But then they teamed up with artists like Travis Scott, who made flipping swooshes as common as celebrities getting McDonald's Happy Meals. Like, if they were able to get, Banksy or Beeple to design an Air Force One, I could see them changing that swoosh overlay entirely and making it their own thing. And if these new takes on the swoosh became well known, an unsuspecting consumer might see a pair of neon GF01s on Geiger's website and think they are legit as well. Now, where do I fall in this argument? I feel like Nike has been rather lax with their fight against custom sneakers through the years. So it's always been a bit of a gray area to me and other sneakerheads. Like, why allow artists to do their thing for decades and then bring the hammer down seemingly out of nowhere? We've seen artists like the aforementioned Shoe Surgeon create really high quality, high fashion versions of the Air Jordan 1 for a long time now. Now, their take is different from what Geiger and Lotus were doing in that they source the actual silhouette and then strip it down and build it back up again. Mosh rose through the ranks creating custom colorways for fans and athletes to wear on the court and on the field. Nowadays, it feels like his time is now dedicated more to his own sneaker than making Devastator LeBrons for nerds like me. By the way, that will always be the GOAT custom. Prior to GF01's fiasco, Geiger seemed to be able to operate without angering Nike when he, along with the Shoe Surgeon, dropped the Misplaced Checks AF1. And let's not forget maybe the most famous example of a non-Nike brand biting off the Air Force One design, the Bathing Ape Bapesta, which are, for all intents and purposes, Air Force Ones with a star instead of the swoosh. Of course, we're not privy to agreements or side deals made off the grid, but if Nike seemingly allowed those previous examples to be sold, why wouldn't they allow Geiger or Lotus takes on the Air Force One or Dunk? Now, without any insider knowledge to Nike's thinking, mass-produced might be the key. According to a report from High Snobiety, Lotus claims he stood to lose $10 million in revenue if his dunks were not sold. That's a lot of money for altering the swoosh on the Pigeon dunks to make it kind of look like Jason Voorhees, which is another IP that Lotus might be tampering with. That would be like another sneaker YouTuber replicating unboxing videos right down to the lighting and camera angles, but they can claim it's totally different because their intro goes, "What's up, what's up, what's up? What is hanging? Slack Jade here, back with another shoe opening." I think I would feel some kind of way with that, especially if it was getting a ton of views. And yeah, Nike is a billion-dollar company, but $10 million is $10 million. Because Lotus and Geiger worked with La La Land to operate on a larger scale, that was what likely drew Nike's ire. It's also why they went after the bootlegger who make Air Force Ones to sell at the flea market and websites that offer real Air Force Ones with hand-painted flowers. One-offs and limited drops seem to be okay. Now, don't quote me on that, since my breadth of legal experience is watching a deepfake video of TikTokers recreating Jack Nicholson yelling, "You can't handle the truth," to Tom Cruise. Bootleg sneakers that blur the lines have been a valuable part of sneaker culture. Again, we can't verify this, but I would be shocked if during these meetings of the Dior and Jordan brand and when they had their epic Jordan 1 collab, they did not look at slides of people in New York wearing bootleg Jordans and Air Force Ones with Louis Vuitton or Gucci prints. In 2022, one of the most anticipated sneaker releases will be the multi-tier collab between Nike, Louis Vuitton, and Virgil Abloh's Off-White Air Force One. People are genuinely hyped for these, as I am. But I wonder if they realize that 20 years ago, these look like the same bootlegs you could buy at a mom and pop sneaker shop in any major city. So do I think this is the end of customs as we know it? I don't think so, because there's a big difference between an artist who creates a unique pair of cleats for an NFL player and what Lotus and Geiger were trying to achieve. Nike isn't burning any bridges that weren't already burned. The Lotus and Geiger fans were always going to be against whatever the establishment represents. They were always going to be invested in Lotus and Geiger's success because they too want to be able to sell their Air Force Ones with an altered swoosh and call it their design. On the other side of the argument is well, yeah, Nike should sue them because when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes crowd. And I can't blame them for thinking that way either. I would be shocked if in time Nike went after an artist who paints over a sneaker as a one-off, but I also wouldn't put it past them, honestly. And then there's the argument that all of this legislation will stifle creativity, to which I kind of call BS. Because there's a big difference between remixing or sampling a shoe and making it your own and adding a few dots on the swoosh or twirling it. If Nike lawsuits mean the end to the latter, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. But if we're also being honest, if Nike had let all of this wash over them and you could buy GF01s or Reaper Dunks or whatever they're calling it, I'm not sure I would care either. You know, sometimes I feel like Co-Rider goes on these rants and before you know it, 20 minutes have gone by, and I'm not sure we've really resolved anything. Oh well, I guess it's time to listen to Donda again and believe what he says. What do you guys think? Is Nike going too hard at customizers, or are they doing the right thing and actually protecting their intellectual property? I want you guys to let me know right down in the comments below. Time for Heat Check, where we bring you everything that's dropping this week. First up, we have the Adidas Yeezy Slide Pure in Glow Green on September 6th for $60. You can't see it, but I'm filming this episode in Crocs, a thing that I once discounted but am now a super fan of. In other words, give me a decade and maybe I'll like Yeezy Slides. We have the Sacai Fragment Nike LD Waffle Light Smoke Gray on the 9th for $170. The next colorway in Sacai's LD Waffle collab with Fragment Design is Simple Elegance in gray and white. Too bad that's the only thing that's going to be simple about these sneakers because they will not be an easy pickup on the sneakers app. We have the Billie Eilish Air Jordan 1 KO on September 9th. I mean, it's being listed for the 9th, but I feel like Jordan Brand would have already done a bigger rollout by now if that were actually the case. You know, sneakers would just be filled with stories about this one and why it's a big deal. All I'm saying, don't get your hopes up if you've got the 9th marked on your calendar. We have the Air Jordan 5 Midnight on the 10th for $190. If you search for the Air Jordan 5 Oreo on YouTube, you might come across my old Today in Sneaks video talking about it dropping for the first time in 2013. There's already comparison videos out there for early pairs and the OG release from 2013. I can't wait for the crowd who's like, man, they used to make them so much better in 2013, like it was that long ago. Then we have the Reebok Answer 4 Bread on the 10th for $140. Allen Iverson doesn't have a flu game moment per se, but man, did he ever give it his all day in and day out like he was MJ on that fateful night. I'm wondering why they went with a gradient style instead of solid color blocking, but maybe the comparison to the flu games would be too obvious if that were the case. We have the Nike Dunk High EMB official basketball merchandise on September 10th for $110. I have a suspicion this release date won't stick, but my 90s loving heart hopes it does because of the nostalgia those logos throughout the shoe give me for old school sports stores like Sports Chalet or Just for Feed or Sports Authority. The Nike Zoom Freak 3 Atom on September 10th for $130. This new Zoom Freak 3 colorway has some unique imagery on the tongue with an atom surrounding the Giannis logo and a Nike basketball pencil. Maybe it has something to do with back to school, but wouldn't it be cooler if Giannis was secretly a fan of B-list DC superhero The Atom? Joe Freshgoods New Balance 990 V3 outside close on the 10th for $220. It's been delayed a few times now, so hopefully we'll get a proper release for this hotly anticipated collab that is on the shortlist for really best New Balance with earthly tones release in 2021, a category that we just made up thanks to Joe Salehi and Todd Snyder. And then the pick of the week is the Levi's New Balance 990 V3 Gray and Indigo on the 9th for $220 each. After a 992 drop last month that quickly sold out, we've got Levi's follow up using a different New Balance silhouette, dropping in both gray and indigo colorways. Here's hoping there's plenty for everybody. Spoiler, there's not going to be plenty for everybody. Good luck trying to get these. And now for a heat check on Drake and Giannis Antetokounmpo collab. So we're recording this on the eve of the release of Certified Lover Boy, or CLB, as Drake has been plastering it all over the country in billboards and teasers on social media for the past few days. We haven't heard the album yet, but considering the rollout and as of right now, mysterious feature list, it has to be good, right? But maybe the most intriguing feature of them all might be someone we don't associate all that much with the music game. On Thursday, Drake posted an IG story with a shirt featuring Giannis' take on the Nike logo and the phrase, I need a, because, get it? Drake needs a freak and Giannis' nickname is Greek Freak, and don't worry Milwaukee, he ain't leaving now or anytime soon. Now, considering Drake's, let's just say, proclivity for rocking with champions in all sports, it's far from a surprise that he would be a fan of Giannis. But is this a sign that an OVO Freak collab is on the way? Personally, I hope so. In fact, I'm going to be prematurely excited for this because Nike can't just be the house of Travis Scott, as hot as every Cactus Jack release happens to be. The Nike Zoom Freak 3 has the potential to be Giannis' breakout shoe that elevates him to the same level as LeBron, KD, and Kyrie. And if you pair that silhouette with OVO or Drake's Nocta sub-brand, that has blockbuster written all over it. Imagine Drake rocking the Freak 3s at a Raptor game. Actually, that's less exciting for me and more just funny because of his relationship with the Raptors. If the album is a mega hit and a Nike Zoom Freak 3 certified lover boy could be the next LeBron 9 Watch the Throne, one of the most popular LeBron player exclusives ever made. Of course, now that I've said that, I've already jinxed it and the shirt was a one-off for Drake. Man, but I can dream. I give a hypothetical Drake and Giannis collab 12 pregnant women emojis out of 12 pairs of black Air Force Ones. Oh, breaking news, Certified Lover Boy dropped at 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Thursday, which means Co-Writer got to listen to it before his bedtime. He's not the biggest Drake fan by any stretch, but he felt like he had to mention it here on the show before we all forget about it next week and start to get hyped for the Kendrick TDE finale later this year. I personally haven't listened to it as of this recording because my bedtime is earlier than his. Anyways, Co-Writer's quick take is that he likes it better overall than Donda because it actually sounds like a cohesive album. His favorite tracks are Fair Trade for that instantly classic I've been losing friends and finding peace line that will definitely be on every hot girl IG post caption for the next 5 years, 7 a.m. on Birdie Path for somehow managing to rhyme Antetokounmpo, and You Only Live Twice with Wayne and Ross, although he could do without the Wayne verse because, you know, he's basically a hater. All right, it's time for this week's Hard Pass, where we take a look at something in the culture that just needs to go, like Puma not knowing what sounds an N64 makes. Do you ever watch a movie or TV show and notice when there's a scene with video games involved, it's represented poorly? Like, either the actors have never held a controller in their lives, or the sounds coming out of the console is wildly inconsistent. Take this Puma ad for their Slipstream Low collab with Butter Goods. It's got a kid who plays a bootleg N64 game, which, okay, I'm interested. The game looks like something that would definitely have existed in that era, so props to whoever designed the look of the game. But why does it sound like a game of Pac-Man? It's nitpicky, but man, it really takes me out of the story they're trying to tell. By the way, if there is an actual working N64 cart with that game, Puma, I would love to, review it. All right. So this week's Hard Pass goes to Donda, the latest album from Kanye West. Yes, it's been a week, and I'm sure we have already moved on to what I'm sure will be plenty of discourse regarding Certified Lover Boy this weekend. So yes, let's get Donda out of the way. And it's fine, really. It's fine. I don't think Donda is an all-time classic because it's only been a week, and unlike movies or books or sneakers, music takes time to ferment in our brains until we can have a cohesive opinion about it. And B, Kanye's output in the 2000s set the bar so damn high with classic album after classic album. College Dropout? Classic. Late Registration? Classic. Graduation? Classic. You get the idea. And then it started to wane right around Yeezus and was at an all-time low with Ye just nothing but poopity poop. The only place to go from there was up. So I can at least say that 1 week in, Donda is Kanye's most listenable album since the Watch the Throne days. Maybe it has to do with the brief nostalgia of hearing Jay-Z on the opening track Jail, or the getting some old Kanye vibes with that Lauryn Hill sample in Believe What I Say, or the more grimy Ye on Keep My Spirit Alive with Griselda. I know we praised Jesus is King here on the show when that first dropped, but in all honesty, we stopped listening to it shortly after that episode aired. Turns out, that album felt like a beta test for what Ye was really aiming for in Donda, and you know what? I just feel like I'm stalling here. Kind of like what Kanye did to us for weeks when he said that Donda was coming out in July at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. And then he did it again in Chicago, recreating his childhood home 10 miles away from a football stadium so he can host another listening party while selling a digital music player that had the album preloaded or whatever it was. All the while, he was working on the album like a kid rushing to finish a paper that's already late, adding people to songs and taking out verses that fans had already heard. It was like a Kickstarter campaign, and we were all checking our feeds to catch the latest updates while funding his stretch goals. If merch sales exceed 3 million, I'll be able to clear that Lauryn Hill sample. If we hit 4 million, we can get Marilyn Manson. Who's Marilyn Manson? Don't worry about it. He's like the creepy uncle we don't talk about unless we want to scare you straight. Wait, sorry, where was I? Sorry, I'm stalling again. It's because I'm tired of talking about Donda and the Kanye narrative. It's been a lot these past few years, man. Yes, some of it has to do with choices he made politically. But even if he didn't put on that red cap, started the birthday party nonsense, and everything else that entailed, I was getting tired. It's been nearly 20 years since College Dropout, man. And somehow the antics are still escalating. Typically, the antics de-escalate when you get older. That's why Jackass Forever is supposed to be the last Jackass movie. Yeah, and you know why I use Jackass. Kanye doesn't want you to be a fan of his music. He wants you to be a fan of his sneakers, his mental health issues, his billionaire struggles, his personal life, his one-sided beefs, his contradictions, his fashion line, his need to add and remove Kid Cudi verses, and his need to be noticed. At this point, Kanye should be in his whole phase, getting called out for posing next to a never-before-seen Basquiat painting with his more famous wife, not hosting extravagant studio tours with music that is nowhere near the quality of his best work. And you know what? I would have absolutely tolerated this shit in the 2000s because I was that much of a fan, but not anymore. So yeah, Donda is fine overall, but it's a middle-of-the-pack Kanye West album. All of this extra stuff wasn't worth it. Just stick to shoes, Ye. All right, that's going to do it for the show. Thank you guys for watching Hard Pass. I am Jacques Slade. I'll see you next week, but not before I show you a dog showing up during a weather forecast.
On the mild side, 25 degrees, winds from the southeast, and as we move through the night, storm moves. 21 is the forecast low tonight.
Dogs and green screens? Don't get much better than that, really. I'll see you guys next week. Peace.